All right, guys. Super excited to have our next guest on the program after we saw a bit of a showcase in the lightweight division last night. So we thought we'd get him on, get a bit of an update, his reaction, and see what's next. And how lucky are we? A fresh fade is now presented to us as well as the Silver Fox joins us back on Submission Radio. The real deal, Beneil, is back on the show. Beneil Dariush, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Yeah, my pleasure, boys. I appreciate all the nicknames. I think I prefer Silver Fox over the Real Deal.
I think Real Deal just rolls off the tongue very nicely. But yeah, if you
it does. But I don't know why I prefer the other one. I guess
if Silver Fox is what you like, then we aim to please, man. You got your what is it, bi-yearly haircut? Is life just better with this haircut now? You look great.
It was a little bit rough the first couple of days. I had to get it in Vietnam because I felt rude, like nobody else has that much hair all over them. So I got it in Vietnam, and then my daughter was a little bit iffy about it, but it's great now, so I'm good with it. I prefer short hair. If it was up to me, I would keep my hair short, but it's been tricky with kids.
Yeah, understandable. You look fantastic with the fresh hair. Yeah. Hey, Vietnam, I was there in January, man. Whereabouts did you go, and what did you do there?
We were in Saigon, and also in Hanoi.
Nice.
I taught some seminars, and we visited some children's homes, and I'm not really sure if I can talk about the rest of the details, so I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, wow, you murdered a person in cold blood.
Not quite there, not quite at that level. It would actually go the other direction. It's just the laws there are different, so I'll just keep it to myself.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sorry, man. I hope you're doing okay, because we've had friends that have
great.
Okay,
my trip was amazing. I
just the other guy just didn't really have a good.
Yeah, exactly.
He's no longer with us.
Well, dude, Vietnam is awesome, so I'm happy you had a great holiday. Gotta ask, UFC 300 is in the books. Did you watch it? And if you did, where does it rate for you on this all-time Beneil Dariush favorite UFC cards that you've watched?
I might have missed like two fights, the first two fights, because it started at 3 and I thought it was going to start at 4 here. So I missed those two, but honestly, it really delivered. It was one of the best cards I've seen. And the only problem is, now that I'm older, I get less hyped about fights. Also, fighting being my thing kind of 24/7. I bet you if I was in my early 20s, that would easily be the most memorable card I've ever watched. It was so good. I was really impressed with all the fighters, and with obviously the UFC, with the way they did everything. It's crazy to think, because UFC has a system, and they're like, okay, we got our system. There's like really not a whole lot you can do to improve it, but they're finding ways to improve it, like little things here and there, and they're doing a better job. So I was really impressed with the whole thing.
As has been said, man, the card really delivered. The lightweight division was obviously showcased, but what was your favorite moment of the entire night? What's one that sort of stands out to you?
Man, I was very happy for Kayla Harrison to have her come over to the UFC and perform the way she performed. I think I think that's great to have new blood in the division. It's really bittersweet for me because obviously Justin Gaethje is my friend, and I was hoping he would win, and I thought he would win. But for Max, I'm sure that's one of the highlights of his career. So I would say that was the most memorable part of the whole event. I just can't say it was sweet for me, So and then watching Arman and Charles Oliveira fight, it was a really interesting fight to watch. Very it was hard for me to like pick a side. It wasn't like I was leaning toward like I had a person who I favored. I like both guys. I think they're both very good guys. I had great interactions with both of them, but I did lean from beginning towards Arman. And it was, I think it was a fantastic fight too. They both did really well, so it was cool. The show was cool, and then to top it off, man, Potan, he is so special when it comes to striking, because the way he can read things, the way he can set things up. Um, you know, I know Israel knocked him out the last fight, so you have to say Israel's the better striker. But in my opinion, he is without a doubt the best striker in all the weight classes, and that's not something you can see typically at a 205 fighter. So I think he sees things that like from way further out than everybody else does, and the way he sets things up, it's really incredible. Because if you look at it, he threw 4 or 5 jabs to the body of Hall, right? Jamahal Hill, and Hill knew what was happening, so he kept his hands up until there was like 1 second like of delay of him not thinking about it, and then he threw that left hook. I mean, the setup for that was the entire round, and then he landed the left hook, and it's just incredible, man. I don't know how else to say it. To have his patience, to have his skills and his defense with his hands, the way he carries his hands, very, very impressed by him.
And him just being like to Herb Dean, no. Potan's cooking right now.
But that's the
come back come back when it's ready.
He took advantage of that situation. So for example, in a moment like that, Hill probably like mentally he's like, oh, I'm gonna get a 1 second break here. He pushes him off, and doesn't even give Hill a second to break. He just right away goes back in there and uses that moment to his advantage as well. Man, that's highest level of combat athlete as you can get. In terms of striking, I don't know if there's anybody higher than him right now.
Yeah. Anytime you watch Alex and Izzy, it's like watching 2 mad scientists in a lab. Like, people don't realize all the stuff that they're doing in there. And it was definitely on show in the fight. I just want to go back to Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, man. I mean, of course, bittersweet because you're mates with Justin, but I got to ask, what was your actual reaction when you saw that finish? Because I guess everybody kind of had their own holy crap moment when it happened. It might have been one of the most unbelievable moments in UFC history, the way that fight ended. Where were you sitting? What were you doing? And what happened when you saw it? What was your reaction?
So my kids aren't really allowed to watch TV. So when I watch the fights, that's their chance to watch TV. So my daughters were there, and we were talking. My wife was talking to them and saying, "Hey, that's Daddy's friend. That's Daddy's friend." And she's still too young to understand, like, oh, he got knocked out, he got hurt, so she doesn't really get it. But like he just fell, and then she's like, oh, she jumped on me thinking it's funny or whatever. But like I was super bummed, and like I wanted a minute to myself. But when you got kids, you don't really have the option of doing that whenever. So my wife tried to take her away, and then she started yelling at my wife, and so I ended up just kind of getting past it with my kids. But man, I was just jaw dropped kind of deal. I did not see that coming at the end of the round. I had a feeling they were going to do something like that at some point in the fight. I just didn't expect it to be in the last 10 seconds. And then at the 9th, second that he would clip him like that and drop him. I think it's interesting to see that Max Holloway does have knockout power if he plants his feet, because typically he doesn't plant his feet. He has a very light base and touches and footwork and goes and he does volume and he fights very smart. But when he does plant his feet, he's got knockout power, and so we're seeing another layer of Max Holloway at a later stage in his career, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, man, it's so cool. Do you think for Justin Gaethje taking this fight ultimately didn't kind of make sense, because it sounded like Islam kind of preferred for him to be the contender for their title fight? He was kind of mixed into this BMF fight, which is cool because the BMF belt is cool, but I know for Justin, the real belt is what he was really aiming for. And anytime you go in there with Max, it's always a dangerous fight. He could have been at 302, technically maybe fighting Islam instead of Dustin right now. Do you think it was a wise move sort of doing this rather than waiting for Justin?
So I think that's kind of what I was talking with my wife about before the fight. I was like, he could have waited. I think they would have gave him the fight in June against Makhachev. And, I'm assuming they paid him a lot of money to take that fight, so it made sense for him. And it's I don't know. Hindsight's 2020, so it's so easy for me to say he should have waited for his title shot, but I don't know. Like what was the negotiations like? What they offered him? Imagine being able to take care of the rest of your family, all of them, for the rest of their life. With the kind of money maybe they're offering him. So things like that make a big difference, obviously. So as far as the belt goes, getting the UFC belt, yeah, he should have waited. But if financially it made sense for him, then it made sense.
By the way, what did you think of Dustin getting the next title shot against Islam?
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody out there. I guess I would probably say Gamrot's ahead of him. Gamrot's been fighting tough guys, and really his only losses to me and in the last couple of years. And I think Gamrot is more deserving, but I'm not against it. There's nobody else out there to fight Makhachev right now, so they're going to give it to Dustin Poirier. I think it'll be a good fight. I think it's going to be a tough fight, obviously, for Poirier, but I think he has the knockout power to possibly catch him. But I think he's going to be the big underdog. I think we're maybe like a 7-1 underdog kind of deal, like that bad.
If you're Justin, are you avoiding the guillotines?
That's a good question, because I would personally, but it seems something he's really confident in, and I'm assuming he gets a lot of people in the gym. So if you're doing it in the gym and it's working, you don't really want to give up on what's working. And then he has to also realize, Makhachev is not going to be like is it Beneil? How do you say his name?
Benoit.
Yeah, it's not going to be like him. His top game, he doesn't let people go. He keeps them down. Dustin was able to, stay safe and kind of work his way up. I don't think he's going to be able to do that with Makhachev. So I think I don't recommend going for a guillotine, but Dustin's Dustin. He's a legend in the sport, and he's gotten there with his fighting style. Who am I to tell him what to do?
The Benoit Saint-Denis fight was insane. And I just want to also go back a second. Like, the divisions are sort of, neither one are really all that clear. Like with Ilya, like you don't know which way they're going to go. Is it going to be Max? Is it going to be the Volk rematch? And then obviously we have clarity because we've got Dustin versus Islam. But like, if you're Max, what do you do? Do you stick around at 155 after looking that good? Do you go back to featherweight and get the next title shot? If you were in his shoes, what would you do?
So since they announced the title fight against Dustin Poirier, if I'm Max, I would. I think he has an opportunity to be double champ, right? Or I might be crazy, but if I'm Max, I go down to 45, and Lord willing, you beat Ilya to Poirier, which is not an easy task. It's a very difficult task. But if you beat him, and then you just say, "Hey, I want that double champ status," like that's what I want. I think they'll give him the opportunity, especially after what he did last night. So that's how I would approach it if I'm Max, and if I'm looking for basically glory. If that's what you're chasing, I mean, I think that's the route to go. If you're trying to have like a kind of a steadier thing, I guess you could stay at 45. I'm not sure. I really don't know what the answer is, because I'm sure it was nice for him not to have to cut as much weight too. Mm-hmm. So he might go back to 45 and then come back to 55 and finish career at 55.
Yeah, well, it opens up the opportunities for him for sure. But yeah, it's fascinating, man. It's like he took out Justin Gaethje, one of the best guys in your division. So it's like, yeah, the world's his oyster. Hey, by the way, I know you mentioned Arman and your thoughts on the fight. I wonder, there was this weird moment when Arman was coming out to the octagon where he had like a fan yelling at him. I don't know if you saw the clip. Had this fan, he was saying stuff to him, and Arman and him kind of got into it on the way to the octagon. I wonder, like, as a fighter yourself, have you ever had any of those weird situations when you walk into the octagon, like crazy fans trying to grab you, or yell at you. And what's your reaction to Arman sort of engaging a little bit with this fan on the way to Octagon? Kind of feels unfair for a fighter to have to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, okay, so I haven't had anything when I'm walking out. People will try to like grab your hand, but no one's really held on to me and been a jerk about it, right? I kind of, man, you want to talk crap? It's not like you're not on Twitter, you know. He's gonna, if he wants to react, he's gonna react, and he did. So I respect it, to be honest with you. You know, I'm a devout Christian. I don't believe in violence, but at the same time, there's a part of me that just understands that you don't want to be insulted, you don't want to be disrespected, especially in a moment like that. So I think I wouldn't go the same path, but I respect his decision. I understand why he did what he did.
Yeah, I think I think you made a very good point about how like this isn't Twitter, this isn't online. I think like knowing like the sport's not a secret. People know how much fighters sacrifice, even just like, you know, not only the camp, being away from their families, financially, and then, you know, even the weight cut right at the end. So I think if someone, whether you're drunk or whatever, like if someone wants to mess around with that in the last minute and put things in jeopardy, they deserve to get absolutely fucking smashed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most important moment for Arman, the walkout. You know, if your head's not in the right place, you're trying to get your head in the right place, or your head isn't the right place, like something like that could really take you out of focus.
Yeah.
So I'm, you know, I respect what he did. I understand why he did it. And that fan, I think, is at fault.
It's like the heckler in the Seinfeld episode. Arman needs to go to this fan's job and just start yelling things at him as he's trying to do data entry or whatever it is that he's trying to do. Sorry, you go, Cass?
I was just going to say.
I like that. That's really good.
The pinky toe.
I was going to ask you, actually, who did you have winning that fight, Charles and Arman?
Man, it's hard because I thought when it finished, I was like, man, I think it's going to be Arman. But I was like, that submission at the end, you know what I mean? Like, it was so close. I for sure thought Charles won the first round, and then Arman won the second round. And the third round I would say Charles was winning the stand-up, and then it went to the ground, and Arman was controlling. Never, he did a little bit of damage, but nothing super threatening. And then Charles had one opportunity, and he finished in a really dominant position. So it was such a close round. I still thought Arman won the fight, but I can see how a judge would give it to Charles Oliveira, and I'd be like, yeah, I get it. I wouldn't disagree with that because, you know, Charles was trying to finish the fight at that point. So didn't really have a side to pick. Whoever won that fight, you know, congratulations to them. But personally lean towards Arman.
Yeah, and it's exciting because obviously, like, one of the new guys have broken through the old guard at lightweight, which obviously is a super hard thing to do. So I'm happy for Arman and happy for the division in that sense, even though people, you know, debating and the debate rages on the internet and all over socials and stuff. Speaking of debating, call them what you want, knee knockers, golden nuggets, thigh slappers, etc. But our friends at Manscaped refer to them as the boys. Not every man has children, but every man is responsible for their two boys below the waist. When your little guys have more hair than they need, trust Manscaped for all your grooming dreams. Your boys need love too, so join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com, use the code submission for 20% off, plus free shipping. You heard it here first. And hey man, every man knows how scary it can be when going for those close shaves below the waist. That's why I trust Manscaped for all my sensitive areas. Introducing the Lawnmower family, including the Lawnmower 3.0 Plus, the 4.0 Pro, and the 5.0 Ultra. Yep, 3 ball trimmers. Isn't it freaking awesome? Your boys, they need love. And for this reason, each trimmer is equipped with skin-safe technology, the LED spotlight, and the unique features for different grooming needs. Also, these babies are waterproof too. Need I say more? For the basic trim, go with the 3.0 and work your way up to the 4.0 or 5.0 for the ultimate grooming experience. 20% off with the code submission and free shipping. Sounds pretty good to me. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. It's one of the best deals going around today. Go to Manscaped right now and change your life forever. And speaking of changing your life forever, what are you doing for your internet security? Because NordVPN has you sorted with this amazing offer. Right now, you get a huge discount plus 4 extra months on the 2-year plan for free. That's right. You go to NordVPN right now. You go nordvpn.com/submission. And that's all you got to do. Just click that link. Nord will give you a 30-day money-back guarantee. So there's no risk with trying it today. What do you guys do on the internet? I mean, we all know what we do on the internet, and we need a lot of internet security for it. But apart from that, you got your streaming services, your geo-block content, your cheaper deals online when it comes to travel. You've got all sorts of opportunities that you're not accessing as we speak because you're not on NordVPN. And by the way, what I love about NordVPN, one of the best apps in the game, and it can be used up to 6 devices. That's right, 6 devices. So you get that one subscription and you get all over it. It's premium cybersecurity for the price of a cup of coffee per month. It really is a no-brainer. Go to nordvpn.com/submission right now. Try it risk-free. You guys are going to love it. You're going to get an amazing deal. You're going to change your internet browsing experience forever thanks to NordVPN. But Beneil, we are super excited about the lightweight division, but I guess what we want to get is a bit of an update from you, because I know last time we spoke, it was a difficult time. It was after your loss, and you were sort of weighing things up, figuring out if you wanted to keep fighting on, what you wanted to do, when you wanted to be back. I know you wanted to also you wished you could have fought in Anaheim when the UFC was there as well, because it was so close to your home. Where's your mind at right now? How are you feeling? And have you made up your decision what you want to do next and when you want to be back, if that is what you want to do?
So I'm back into the, building phase, right? So I get to start sparring next month, and I get to start doing some light sparring next month. I'm super excited for that, because typically I do light sparring all year round. What I mean by light sparring is I put on light gloves and it's more of a touch sparring, and you're focusing a lot on takedowns. And then when I have a fight, I go really hard with big gloves. Like you just have basically what I would call the more normal sparring, where everybody's just throwing at 80 to 90%. So to be able to go back to just light sparring, something I haven't been able to do in a long time, I'm very excited about. But obviously, I plan on fighting, and I don't know exact timeline, but I think it's going to be like end of summer or like more towards the end of the year. I don't know yet.
Do you get that feeling again, like things are sort of heading in the right direction, or is it a little bit too early to tell?
This is what I always try to tell people. The day I retire is the day I kill the fighter. Like this part of me that just constantly wants to compete. I was injured and I was out for the first 10 weeks. I had to not do anything. And then after that, it's like light drilling and here and there. The day I was able to get back on the mat and start competing, man, that was like one of the happiest days of my life. So that's kind of the issue I have. I'm always going to want to compete. I'm always going to want to compete. And I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing, because it could end up, getting me in trouble. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back on the horse inside the octagon too. So it's just one of those things where my desire to compete is always there, and it's just getting worse and worse.
It was wild, because you sort of showed us into a world that fans don't get to look into, which is what happens with a fighter, after they get a bit of damage to their head or they get hurt in the octagon, because most people don't see what the recovery process, right? Most people just see Beneil Dariush in the octagon again a few months later, or, their favorite fighter a few months later. So it was really fascinating to see that side of it. But in terms of the recovery process and how bad it really was, how bad was it? Like, is this the worst kind of recovery that you've had when it comes to any kind of like significant head injuries? And do you feel 100% now, or how are you feeling now after it? Can you say that you feel like you did before the fight?
I definitely feel 100%. I feel great. I feel, I feel way better than I did before. Maybe I feel as good as I did maybe a year ago. The body feels very healthy. I would say the injury, when I lost to Alex Hernandez, I want to say 2018. It's been a while, so I don't remember exactly, but I lost to him, and I had a lot of issues back then. I had my neck, I had my head, and it was just like trying to get everything going took a long time. And my first fight coming back was against Thiago Moises, and honestly, like it was the most terrified I've ever been in a fight. And that's not normal for me because, yeah, okay, I'll have anxiety and stress, but like I'm not scared to fight. Like I enjoy the fight part, but I was actually genuinely scared to exchange. I was scared to whatever. If you watch that fight, all I did was grapple. I didn't do anything but grapple because I was so afraid. But yeah, so I would say that was probably just as bad as this. But now the recovery's been easier because I didn't have so much neck issues. I had less neck issues. My shoulder's been a little bit tight, but nothing crazy. I'm over that now too. So it's been an easier process than the last time. I would put it that way. And maybe because I had the last experience, once you experience something, it's easier to go through it again.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Well, I mean, it's good that you sound like you're, on the right track. I know it's like early days. Is there any and we'll wrap after this. Is there anybody from the division that you sort of have your eye on? I know you sort of when did you say you were targeting? Late summer for the return?
Yeah, late summer or end of the year. I feel good now. Like I do feel 100%, but my coaches and family, they want me to wait a little bit more. So okay. That being said, as far as who they were talking about, I believe my manager didn't even call me for it because he didn't want me to act like the way I do. But I think they mentioned Jalen Turner they would have preferred me to fight him, I think, instead of Moicano so that was something they called me for, and I would have loved that fight. But I
for
think
300,
now
yeah?
more than. Yeah, for 300. So they would have won me on last night's card. So I think now they're gonna either give me Dan Hooker or Moicano. I think those are gonna be the fights that they try to offer me.
Okay. With just out of curiosity, with Dan Hooker, is that just kind of like a hunch, or something's been said about that?
Nothing's been said, but I know he said my name, and I know the UFC really likes Dan Hooker, understandably so. He's a great guy. And so if he wants to fight me, it makes sense for them. We're pretty close in rankings, and so that makes sense. And then Moicano, same thing. Moicano is pretty close to me in rankings.
Okay, super quickly. It's funny you say that because we're about to jump on the phone with Dan Hooker. Depending on how late of a night he had. So any message you'd like us to relay for him? If this is a guy that you'd like to fight next.
Oh man, I hope he's well. Training's going good. God bless him. I don't really have any interactions with him, so I don't know him that well, but all the best to him.
Yeah.
You know what I love about it? You guys are both guys that are basically fan favorites in the division. But a part of me is like, I want to see you guys fight other people because you guys are both so loved. No one wants to see either one of you guys lose. But anyway, regardless, there's a bunch of really fun options for your return, man. Like you mentioned, Moicano. Who knows, down the track, maybe rematches with Arman and Charles. The division is on fire right now, and there's a lot of really fun stuff. Before we wrap, just want to let everybody know as well, a big congratulations to Beneil Dariush, who is a bit of a gym mogul now because Kings MMA in Anaheim has gotten a sexy new location. It's way bigger. It's opening up soon. Make sure to follow Beneil at Beneil Dariush for all the information. And if you're ever in Anaheim, make sure to go down to Kings MMA in Anaheim and say Submission Radio sent you, because you'll get looked after. We can't wait to check out the new facility, Beneil. Congratulations. It looks amazing.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. I'll say this one last thing, since you guys are friends with Dan and you don't really want to see that fight. Maybe I think a great fight for Dan would be Paddy Pimblett. Just an opinion of mine, because if you think about it, like they're both big names, and it puts Paddy in the rankings. It gives him an opportunity, but I think it gives Dan, if he beats him, it gives him even more leverage as far as who he wants to fight next, right? I think beating me would give him a lot of leverage too, but I think beating Paddy gives him quite a bit of leverage as well. So I think that's an idea, but that's just my opinion. I think people would probably be big fans of that.
I think he wants Gamrot next. So I guess he's going for like the ranking, but Paddy gives you the name value and the spotlight. you got to think that would be like in Manchester or something. But yeah, I like it. We'll run it past him. The Dan Hooker marketing department.
All right, gentlemen. You have a great one.
Thanks.
All the best, Benny. Congratulations on the new gym, and we can't wait to see who you pick next. Good luck on the first touch sparring session. Exciting times.
Thanks, boy.
See you, man. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.